Welcome back to The Bulwark Goes to Hollywood. I'm very pleased to be joined today by Lloyd Kaufman. So Lloyd Kaufman is the brilliant and twisted mind behind, amongst so many other things, the Toxic Avenger, Troma's War, Tromeo and Juliet, so many movies, so many classics. And I am I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit starstruck here because I have been watching Mr. Kaufman's movies for as long as I can remember, and also the Toxic Avenger cartoon show, which maybe we can talk a little bit about in a bit here. But the reason we have Mr. Kaufman on the show today is because his latest, and I've been told last, hopefully not last, but maybe last movie, Shakespeare's Shitstorm, is playing at the Museum of the Moving Image and some more showtimes in New York City. But I'm extremely excited to have Mr. Kaufman on. Thank you for being on the show today.
Little Woody Guthrie, this land is for everybody, no question about it. And Troma is very upset about the current state of elitism and all that stuff.
This is the first time we've had anybody play themselves onto the show. I really appreciate it.
Yes.
So, Mr. Kaufman, let's talk a little bit about Shakespeare's Shitstorm, and then we'll get to the rest. What was the inspiration behind this? Can you give folks the elevator pitch as you see it for this movie? Why should they go see it?
Well, I'm very verbose, so I can't do an elevator pitch. I live in a brownstone. We have a house in New York with stairs. We have to walk up 4 flights.
The stair pitch.
So the stair pitch, much longer. It's hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm. The hashtag is part of the title, which is even stupider than having a title with the word shit in it. So this movie is probably doomed. But the Museum of the Moving Image just sold out their night on Friday, and the Cinema Village Theater is almost sold out, and the Film Noir in Brooklyn is doing very well too. So we open April 8th in New York, and I think even the Nighthawk is going to play the film, but that's next week.
And is the show on the 9th that you're going to be at, is that already sold out?
It's getting sold out,
Okay.
But we have a big panel there with the cast and me. The Museum of the Moving Image, the panel is mainly concerned about my 50 years of failed cinema, but the village, the Cinema Village, there'll be cast and people there who will be much more entertaining and attractive than I. So come to the Cinema Village, and then I think the next day, the 9th, there'll be a panel at the Film Noir, which is Brooklyn's best art house, and we're looking for a good turnout there.
So let's talk about hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, because I've watched it. I watched it. Unfortunately, I had to watch it at home because that's how we watch all things now, But
Where are you?
I am located in Dallas. I'm located in Dallas.
I was just there. God damn it, we were there at the beautiful Lee Harvey Oswald Texas Theater.
The Texas Theater, yeah, the Texas Theater.
Apprehended.
Yep.
It was almost full. The place is huge.
Huge, yeah. That's a good one to almost sell out. I mean, that's a big venue.
I think they're still playing it there. I'm not sure, but I think it went for a week. Anyway, so we had a 6-city tour in Texas, all produced by the fans. They drove me. They drove Toxie and Sarah. We had 2 cars. I tried to pay for their motels and their food and gas. They wouldn't permit it, and all to help Troma. So thank you, Bill Akers. Thank you, Matt McNew, and thank you, Little Spark Productions, Catalina Querida and Lucio and Tori, and we had a whole Troma posse, and they did it out of love for Troma and an attempt to keep Uncle Lloydie's career alive. So thank you. And Oklahoma City too. So we must have driven 3,000 miles all around Texas, Oklahoma.
All right, so I want to talk about 50 years of Troma here in a minute, but let's talk about the new movie, or newish. I mean, it came out in a couple years back, but obviously COVID has messed everything up in terms of getting out there and getting around.
Theaters during COVID.
Yeah.
And no,
So,
it got rejected to pretty much every film festival. Fantasia, which is a big, big one, had it as their anchor film, the leading film, but they couldn't get any media to deal with it. So all the other film festivals, even the shitty little ones like the Salem Film Festival that promotes violence to women, even they eventually rejected
oh man.
Shakespeare's shitstorm.
Well, do you think that's in part because of? So let's set out. So it's a retelling of the Tempest, kind of a loose retelling of the Tempest,
Yes.
Shakespeare's The Tempest, with the typical Troma edge, with lots of kind of over the top slapstick violence and bodily excretions and nudity. Importantly, very important nudity. Um, but
Sex,
also
you call it. Sex movie. And this time we had trained whales, so that's pretty.
and you had Free Willy. I was impressed that you were able to get Free Willy for the
Albania. We're the first American movie company to film a narrative in the great country of Albania, and that's where all the whales. And we spent about 8 days filming there on the wonderful, wonderful opportunity. And after we did it, now all these big movies are coming to Albania because the mainstream are chicken. They're
yeah.
afraid. They're afraid. They're afraid they lose their little petty suit jobs. So once we were successful, now there's some big movies coming into Albania. So, and we thank Albania. They gave us an amazing opportunity, an amazing deal, and we gambled, they gambled, and it worked out. So thank you, Albania. Albania.
Well, not the first time that you and Troma have been trailblazers. We can talk about the home video market in a minute because I think that's a very big and important part of your story. What was it that sparked you to kind of want to make this, and also to revisit some of the stuff that Troma has done in the past? I mean, Tromeo and Juliet, obviously one of your biggest hits from the last 30 years. Uh, uh, Now this, like, what is it about Shakespeare that brings you, gets you going?
Well, Shakespeare is the greatest writer of English words ever. And Michael Hers and I are well educated, a lot more than the idiots who run the industry. We studied Shakespeare, and we went to Yale, among other things. I've went to see The Tempest when I was about 8 years old in the dark theater with my mother. Maurice Evans, I think, was the star. And just being in the dark with my mother was a very intense experience. If you've seen my brother Charles Kaufman's Mother's Day, which is about two brothers and the mother, you'll get the idea. But since then, since I was 8 years old, I was struck by the Tempest. Studied it at Trinity School in New York, had it at Yale, have seen it multiple times on stage, have seen a bunch of the movies. And I wanted to wait until I was Prospero's age so I could really feel what the show is about. Shakespeare deals with the loss of power, with magic, with monsters, with fairies. It's the trippiest of Shakespeare's plays. I certainly have taken a lot of drugs, and I know what he must have also. But it has a monster, Caliban. I mean, and it's perfect for an old man like me. Prospero is losing his power. He's banished to an island. They kick him out of his province where he's governor or baron or whatever. And I've been banished further and further down the tubes into the nether regions of the main of the underground. So I feel and I make not like Prospero. I make magic. Movies are magic, no matter how you look at them. And so I had a lot. I didn't want to do Prospero while I was at the time that James Gunn and I were making Tromeo and Juliet. I wanted to wait till I was of age, and I've lived long enough. I didn't expect to, but I've lived long enough so I could. I get it. And hashtag Shakespeare's shitstorm is, I think, the best reimagining of the Tempest that's been done on film, and it's certainly my most personal film. And Terra Firma had been my most personal film. It was about the making of a low budget film and about the making of a Troma director. And is he? He may not be talented, but he believes in what he's doing. So I think there's a lot of Prospero there too.
Yeah, and the kind of modern hook here is two pronged. You have one. There's the opioid epidemic, which I think is obviously a hot button issue, and also kind of alongside that, the corruption of the elites, the ways in which business is profiting off of human suffering, the serious part, and then of course there's the Troma kind of silliness, and which leavens the story. But also, again, there's the kind of social media aspect, the ways in which big structural problems like that are ignored for little identity politics stuff, for lack of a better word.
Right.
How did you? What was it that wanted you to bring those two ideas together in this classic rapping?
Well, thank you for asking. I'm going to blow out a lot of words. My wife and I have been married for just about 50 years. From the time I met her, she watches these morning shows, these chat shows like the Today Show and the whatever, these morning Good Morning America. They're horrible, but what makes them worse is they have these ads every 5 minutes for drugs. So, how many generations of children have been watching these chat shows that their mothers put on in the TV in their kitchen while the children are eating the Fruit Loops and becoming obese? How many kids have been brainwashed with the idea you got to take a drug, get a doctor to write you a prescription? You got a hangnail, get a purple pill. They even give you the colors of the pills sometimes. They usually have a fat, porky guy running around town, so happy it's so disgusting. But meanwhile, little children have been watching this for 50 fucking years. So that was very important to me. And obviously, the opioid crisis is only part of it. The drug companies have killed many more than hashtag fuck Putin has, and will. So, it's very important. I don't know why we have to keep taking these drugs. I take a lot of drugs, but that's for recreation and, that's my own privacy.
Yeah.
Luckily, nobody's listening, so they won't know that I'm totally addicted to booze and drugs. But that's the problem. But a 5-year-old kid shouldn't be hearing that. They shouldn't be hearing about these the names too. You get so you can even start to believe that they might be useful. Anyway, that's one of the themes. And the other theme was Yale University, my so-called alma mater, has totally given in to the snowflakes. They are so fucked up. They're getting rid of professors and they're hiring administrators. They have more administrators than they've ever had. The people that can deal with political correctness. And so they sent out a letter, Yale, where arguably the smartest students in the world exist. They sent a letter to the students telling the students, for Halloween, it's not a good idea. Don't wear a Mexican hat. Don't wear a Chinese pigtail. What's acceptable is where's Waldo? That's okay. So then there's a video. Oh, well, that was what Yale sent to the students. Then a Nobel Prize winning scientist and also a best-selling author who was a dean at Yale, his wife wrote an open letter saying, what is this all about? Yale students don't need to be told what to wear on Halloween. What are we doing here? And the snowflakes just lynched these people. They came over to where they were living. They screamed. You can watch it on YouTube.
Sure.
I saw it on YouTube, and that pushed me over the line with the hashtag. And I have been, James Gunn was almost tossed off his career. I've had two horrible lying third-rate podcasters come after me. Luckily, the fans went after them. So it's ugly. And Al Franken, here we have a senator out of 100. How many senators actually work for us? I don't think the Democrat Mnuchin, who is a coal miner billionaire, I don't think he's working for us. I don't think the two senators in New Jersey are working for us. Menendez has been indicted twice, and the other guy, Booker, he was in the front row at Menendez's criminal trial. I mean, who's working for the people? Al Franken, among others. So Gillian, what's her name? The New York
Gillibrand.
Gillibrand kicked him out. So
Yeah.
this is what we got. And so I think hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm is my attempt to sort of bring this out. And
yeah,
I doubt it's going to, I don't think it'll change much, but you never know. Troma has been a huge influence. Troma Entertainment for 50 years has had a huge footprint on the countryside of American pop culture, without a doubt.
Yeah. Well, I want to talk. So I want to talk about this because I read All I Need to Know about filmmaking. I learned from the Toxic Avenger years ago. I mean, it came out in 97, 98, something like that. I read it when I was in college, sometime between 2000 2004. It was an eye-opening book for me, in part because again I grew up watching the Toxic Avenger on on cable and on VHS. And I want to get your long view look at the entertainment industry here, because I think it's a really, you have lived through a number of transformations within the industry itself, both from from an artistic and frankly a financial and business point of view. And the point of this, I know you don't listen to the Bulwark Goes to Hollywood, so I'll just say the show is a business of Hollywood podcast, which is like kind of the main idea here.
I listened. When this came in, I went and listened to it. It's very good.
Oh, thank you. But it's
entertaining, may I say that this particular interview may doom you, but
that's okay. I'll be all right. I'll be fine. But I want to talk to you about the business of Hollywood, because what I found interesting at the time, and what I find interesting again rereading it now, I reread it for this interview, was how everything changed when VHS came about, and how the VHS revolution itself kind of ate itself, and whether or not we've seen that happen again with internet and streaming and VOD, and how that, from your perspective as an independent filmmaker, how the business of selling movies has changed, first from theaters to VHS, and then from VHS to Blockbuster, and now in the streaming era. What do you see as the biggest changes and challenges within the industry itself?
Well, certainly the biggest challenge for us independents is that the laws that used to protect the public against monopoly have been done away with. So the theaters can now be owned by the studios. Thanks to Clinton, there's no more public domain. Mickey Mouse, Toxic Avenger, they'll never become public domain because Clinton gave Disney unending public domain for Mickey Mouse. Disney was built on public domain. Public domain, Thomas Jefferson and his cronies intended for copyright to be 14 years, so that the author and the creator would benefit from the public for 14 years, and then give it back to the public in appreciation, so the public could create their own Mickey Mouses and Toxic Avengers. But that was not meant to be. Mickey Mouse is going to be permanently in the private property of Disney, as will all the public domain sexist, racist fairy tales that Disney has produced. So I am saying that this is outrageous. And Mickey Mouse could still be produced by Disney. They could still have their own Mickey Mouse, but maybe Hayao Miyazaki wants to do a Mickey Mouse. Maybe Brandon Bassam, whose new movie I am producing. Maybe Mercedes the Muse, Troma feminist, might want to do a feminist version of Mickey Mouse, a real feminist version. But it's not to be. We're again, the elites have taken over.
What would a Troma Mickey Mouse movie look like? I'm curious.
I have no interest, but I have no interest. But the point is, other people might. There's absolutely no reason why public domain should go on forever. We should give it back to the public. They're the ones who supported us. Spider-Man should be in the public domain. But it isn't. This is the public should get back what it supported for 14 years. In fact, I wrote a book called Sell Your Own Damn Movie. And I make a good case. A, piracy may be a good thing as long as people aren't selling your movie. If kids are trading it and little pimply kids are broadcasting it for free, it's okay with me. I'm an artiste. I want people to see my work. As long as they're not charging. Those 5 million fascist genocidal Chinese who are making money off our movies, and we don't get 1 cent. I don't like that. No way. And I certainly don't like the fact that the Russian fascist genocidal elites have got our movies and making money off them. We don't get 1 cent from that. So that's terrible. But I don't mind if people. A guy just wrote me from Kansas City. They have no independent theaters, but they do have some kind of a broken down lumberyard or something where they show movies. I said, if you don't charge admission, you can, show any of the movies that Troma has produced and that I've directed. No problem.
Well, that's great. That's great. I want to talk. I want to talk a little bit about seeing movies in a theater in one sec. Before we do that, though, I am curious to get your take on the internet as a business model. How has that worked for you at Troma? Because I mean, originally, again, like I said, I'm rereading your first book that you wrote with James Gunn, and there's a part in here where you talk about you can go to Troma.com, you can buy our movies on VHS, send us a check, we'll send you the movie. And obviously things have changed a great deal since then. Now you can stream the entire Troma library, it feels like, almost from your website for like $6 a month, something like that.
$5
$5 a month.
And every month. Troma Now. It's the future, Sonny, but now. And we got about 1,000 movies and music videos and shorts. And then every month, about 6 new movies by the James Gunns and Trey Parker and Matt Stones and Eli Roths of the future. So it's a wonderful streaming service, and it's growing. We don't have any money to advertise, so it's growing by word of mouth, and that is a major hope of ours that Troma Now will be okay. And keep us, at least contribute to the longevity of Troma Entertainment.
Yeah.
But it's great. I watch it. There's all sorts of stuff I've never seen there before by new directors. They're really interesting. They come from the heart, the brain and the soul of the filmmakers, and good or bad, they're definitely worth watching.
Yeah. So, like I said, there's a line from this book. So you were talking about the making of Toxic Avenger 3 and Sergeant Kabukiman NYPD, and here's the line I wanted to highlight. Other low budget film companies, including my friend Roger Corman's company Concord, completely eliminated theatrical release from their budgets long ago. But I still love projectors and popcorn and faulty speakers and floors where your shoes stick to the dried up cola.
Yes.
I love this because I love theaters. I love going to the movie theater. I love going to see stuff in theaters. And I want to get your take as a longtime producer, director, actor. What is it like to sit there in a crowd and watch with your fans and your well-wishers the new thing that you have produced? What is that like for you as an artist?
I enjoy it. I've very much enjoyed to see the reactions. And by the way, the Troma Dance Film Festivals, which is free and been going on for 22 years, if I'm correct. One of the great dividends of that, not just showing movies for free, but also the fact that the filmmakers could sit in a theater and see the audience. These are filmmakers, most of whom had their first film in Troma Dance Film Festival. They got to see their movie with an audience, and they were so happy. They really enjoyed it to see the reaction. And I love the theater. It's a communal experience. It's totally different from watching by yourself, And again, I come back. I started in the 60s making movies when I was at Yale. So there were only theaters. And when we made Squeeze Play Waitress, Stuck on You, there was no anything. It was just there was TV, and we did make television versions. and occasionally would get on TV. But for the most part, it was only theaters. And then VHS came in, and we jumped on it. We loved it at the time. And of course, the mainstream, what they do is they try to throw a monkey wrench into new technology. So Jack Valenti and the MPAA, Motion Picture Association of America, the rating board, they sued everybody and claimed that copyright law would go away and we'd be inundated with child pornography and blah blah blah. They used the same, and then of course, once they tried to hold it up, then of course they basically took it over with Blockbuster. They put all the mom and pop independents out of business, and they put out and most of the independent production companies were put out of business because Blockbuster owned the market, and they only had a small number of variety. They didn't believe in variety. They wanted to have 50 copies of Batman or whatever was going at the time, rather than 10 copies of Batman and maybe one of Class of Nuke High, or so we had to move over, and then we embraced the video DVDs, and we were in there even before the machines were on people's in people's houses. We loved DVD and so forth and so on. Now the internet, and the two reasons Troma is still around, Sonny, is because of our fans who do everything, and the internet. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. And the conspiracy of the labor elite, the corporate elite, and the bureaucratic elite conspire to kill the internet. They want to get rid of net neutrality. They don't want to have a free, open, and diverse internet. And the internet's the last democratic medium, and it's already been perverted by Amazon and Google and all these YouTube, and the algorithms have totally destroyed independent the independent movie in terms of getting any significant revenue. If you're a vassal of, say, 20th Century Fox, and you call Fox Searchlight, that's what is considered independent. Sony Classics, they're considered independent. But the companies like Troma, which are independent, are how do you say it? Blacklisted, basically.
Yeah. I mean, it's always kind of funny to hear a movie like Nightmare Alley, for instance, which I liked a lot, but I like people say, "Oh, Nightmare Alley, an independent film." It's a $40 million movie.
Yeah, it ain't
Like
no
that's
independent, but it's a great movie, and
it is a great movie.
it won more Oscars.
Yeah, I loved it, and everyone should see it. But
He's a big fan. Del Toro, when he was a kid, I met him at festivals. He loves Troma, and obviously we were in. He talks about Troma. The guys who did Deadpool, who I've never met, they clearly love Troma and talk about it. A lot of the mainstream has. Check out Netflix, a series called Sally Forever. If that isn't Troma all the way. In fact, the woman who stars in it has a big part in the reimagining of the Toxic Avenger that the Legendary is producing, directed by Macon Blair. The woman who stars in Sally Forever and who directed it and wrote it is in. She defecates on a man's face very graphically. You can't miss it. I mean, it's nothing, no subtlety there. There are people vomiting on each other, and yet it's a very good series, and it looks great. They had really good quality lighting, and the technical side was, clearly they spent some money, which we don't have. So our movies, the lighting's a little, we have to move fast, so you don't have the best lighting. You can see behind the curtain with our movies sometimes, or the silicone, whatever it is. But the audience is kind of like that. It's very Bertolt Brechtian. It's very Thornton Wilder. How do you say it? Breaking the fourth wall, kind of. The participants who are watching the movie are part of the family making the movie. They like that.
Yeah. What do you think Troma's biggest influence on Hollywood writ large has been? Has it been serving as a training ground, or kind of changing the idea of what is acceptable on the big screen to see?
Well, I think both. I mean, if you look at the people who've come out of Troma, Samuel Jackson. I mean, I mentioned them. There are all sorts of, right? James Gunn, Trey Parker, and Matt Stone, whose first movie before South Park was Cannibal the Musical.
Hmm.
James Gunn wrote Tromeo and Juliet. You got Eli Roth, Fergie. His first movie was Monster in the Closet. The late Paul Walker, also a child actor in Monster in the
Hmm.
Closet. I mean, there's also tons of people. Vincent D'Onofrio, his first movie.
Yep.
Even
Early Oliver Stone
yeah, well,
appearance.
that's
Yeah.
right. He got into movies because of me. He was writing shitty novels, and I was making movies at Yale, and he hung out. And turns out he's one of our greatest directors. He worked on my first couple of movies. A lot of I think that's a big deal for us, and I think also the people clearly. If you look at the first season of South Park, I mean, it's a cartoon version of Troma,
Yeah.
which is very clever because when you see it in cartoon, if you see somebody getting their arm ripped off and rats coming over to eat it, uh, if you see that in real with humans, not so acceptable. But in cartoon, not so bad.
Yeah. You get the cover of Entertainment Weekly.
They are brilliant. What's that?
You get the cover of Entertainment Weekly if you do it in a cartoon form instead of live action.
Well, yes, but nonetheless, I've been watching the recent South Park, and it's just better than ever. It's just brilliant.
Yeah.
They are the Punch magazine of the United States. They're just terrific.
Yeah. I love Parker and Stone. It's good. I'm glad they're still going. They could have shut it down
They're a
anytime.
lovely
But
guy. They're so nice. James Gunn too. The people who've come out of Troma, they're the best. James Gunn is the nicest guy in the world, the most talented, thoughtful, and the people around him. He's had the same manager, agent, best. In fact, his best friends he met on Tromeo and Juliet, Stevie, and also his brothers in Tromeo and Juliet, and Stevie Blackheart, Jane Jensen. So he's a really great guy, and he loves movies. That's the problem with the mainstream. You suits, you don't love movies. You love the red carpet. You love the $2,000 dress by Yves Saint Laurent. You love the parties, the $500,000 parties, where there's a party within the party, where Stallone is in there with a grouchy face and four ugly bodyguards. And you can't get into the party within the party unless you're a commissioner like my beautiful wife. It's ugly.
yeah.
And these guys, the ones who come out of Troma, they're wonderful people. And the some of the mainstream, a lot of mainstream stars want to be in Troma movies, but we can't do it because we can't afford to shoot union.
Yeah.
It's impossible for $500,000 to do the sort of script. In fact, Matthew Gray Gubler, talk to him. He loves Troma. David Destatian, whatever his name is from.
Yeah.
They all
David Dastmalchian.
from
The Suicide Squad
yeah,
and The Dark Knight.
they're all big fans, and they do try to help us as much as they can with the social thing.
Yeah, well, what are some of the union? Well, there's a segment again in your book that I just reread. The breaking down the cost of what it would actually cost to hire like a relatively big name who is a member of SAG to come in and do a movie. What are the extra costs that adds beyond just paying that person's salary?
Well, the idea is if you have an actor working on Monday and you don't use them, you see, I'm using the incorrect pronoun because I'm so woke. If you don't use them until Friday, you have to pay them for the whole week, and I think it's $800 a day or $1,000. It's big money, and we just don't have it. If you look at hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm, there are thousands of people in it. There's no way we could have paid people. Also, we're not that good at getting a hot lunch in 6 hours. We did have hot lunches, and they were very, very good, but they at times didn't get there in 6 hours. And we certainly didn't have chocolate chip cookies and mousse à l'orange and tofu, Thai tofu with chili and fried rice.
Yeah.
And you get one thing on a Troma table, and usually I'm vegetarian, and I try to make sure that the food is healthy, but it's usually like one thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I want to talk a little bit about trauma and trauma as a almost a precursor of some other some things that we've seen in the industry and really fandom, right? The fandom of trauma is its magic, but that fandom, I think it's fair to say that fandom was cultivated by the idea you guys had of Tromaville, right? The idea of like putting so many of your movies in the same kind of connected universe. It's a precursor of everything that the Marvel Cinematic Universe has done, but it was influenced by the original by Stan Lee and what he
Yeah.
was doing at Marvel, right?
One of the few things I learned at Yale, other than drugs and Chinese studies, was Marvel. The guy next to, and the guy who had the room next door to us, he had a collection of Marvel comics, and I didn't read comics as a kid. They weren't permitted in our house, and I just didn't have any interest. In fact, Oliver Stone, we grew up together. He had a big collection of classic comics and Scrooge, Uncle Scrooge comics, and I'd love them, both of them. But I didn't have comics, and I saw Stan Lee's comics, and wow, wow, wow! The art, the fact that he would name he'd use alliteration to credit his colorers and his inkers and story writers, and I love that stuff. And I searched him out after my last year at Yale, '69. He was living in New York and working in New York, and we got along, and he had an idea for a script which I wrote called Night of the Witch, and it actually got optioned a few times, but then his partners didn't want it. They only wanted him to be involved in AAA movies, but it's a good script. Someday maybe we'll make it. But he was a big influence, and his favorite Troma movie was Sergeant Kabuki Man, NYPD. He tried to get Jim Carrey to play a reimagining, but it didn't happen. But we
Yeah.
were very close friends. He's in about 8 of our films, and we dedicated hashtag Shakespeare Shitstorm to Stan Lee, John G. Avildsen, who directed Rocky and Karate Kids, and Cry Uncle, which is still on Troma now. Wonderful film, low budget film that John made, hilarious. Cry Uncle, satire of film noir that came out before Rocky, that John directed prior to Rocky, on which I
Yeah.
also worked on Rocky, thanks to him. So,
Yeah.
and my stepmother, Sigrid Kaufman, she died also, so we had
Yeah.
3 people dedicated, and they were all very important in both my cultural and friendship life.
Yeah. Um,
But I have to say, the idea of the Troma universe is definitely Marvel's. Um, the idea of a Tromaville is the little town in New Jersey, and everything happens there. That's, I think, I have to say that that came from Marvel. The Marvel universe, where the characters would, just start. I think it was just starting, maybe.
yeah.
And Toxie is Stan Lee in one of my books. He did an introduction where he says that Toxie, in the same way that Spider-Man put a new face on the comic book hero, Toxie put a new face on the movie superhero, and that he can't get a job. He's got skin problems. He's true to his girlfriend. His mother, has difficult mother problems. Similar the pathos. That's why people like Toxie, and he only has a mop, of course, as a weapon.
Yeah.
That's
What
sympathetic.
why is I was rewatching the Toxic Avenger this week in preparation for this, and it really does, it works on so many levels, but it is such a joyful film. What is it about the Toxic Avenger that appeals to folks across, like, through the years? I think you can introduce that movie to people today, and I think folks would be really into it.
They are.
I mean, I
Actually, on Troma now, Toxic Avenger is. It's amazing how many people haven't seen it, or they want to see it again, because it's usually number 1 or at worst number 2 on Troma now. The first Toxic Avenger, although I believe if you want to see a better film, Citizen Toxic, the 4th one, is really the most, I think, controversial and interesting, and and original, written by Trent Hager.
Why do you say that? I actually haven't seen the fourth one. I have not. I have not seen the fourth one.
It's a doppelganger movie. There's the good Toxie goes through an explosion at the school, gets pushed into Amortville, and the bad Toxie, the noxious offender, the noxious Nazi, gets put into happy good Tromaville. So there's and the film deals with abortion and plastic surgery. These 13-year-old kids in Beverly Hills who are getting their faces redone or fat taken off. It's horrible. So there are a lot of interesting themes, especially abortion, which apparently is. I opened my screenings in Texas. I hope my wife isn't listening, but I opened it by saying that we were here in Texas because we were looking. Apparently, you could get an abortion, no problem, very liberal, and we get a huge laugh from our fans. I'm not so sure.
That sounds about right.
Fort Worth would enjoy it.
Yeah.
But
that's
Toxie. The point is, in 1999, the Citizen Toxie dealt with all that stuff, and in fact, there's a Corey Feldman, aka Finkelstein. He plays the doctor who announces to Sarah that she's got 2 babies inside of her. Anyway, I don't want to be a spoiler, but it's a good one.
All right. Good time. I gotta go to Troma Now and check it out.
Yeah, and Troma Now is free the first month, so you can see as much as you want. If you like it, $4.99. That's not so bad.
Yeah, it's a good deal, and you guys have an enormous library. Yes. I mean, you that's part of the interesting business model that you guys built. I think your business partner Michael Hart said, "What we can license 1,000 movies for the cost of one. Why are we still making movies?"
He's right. But the problem is we're shunned. We're blacklisted. We don't exist. Right? The major media doesn't pay any attention to us. But if Amazon just bought MGM for how many billions of dollars? We have 1,000 movies, and people love them. And the more nobody knows about it. About it, but it's unbelievable how many people still don't know about the Toxic Avenger, much less Troma and 50 years of Troma, right? So we it's all word of mouth. It's all what we have is all thanks to the fans. And to some extent, the interview with the internet, which unfortunately is getting more and more choked.
Yeah. All right. That was pretty much everything I wanted to ask. I always like to close these interviews by asking if there's anything I should have asked. If there's anything you think people should know about hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. If there's anything you want to say about 50 years of Troma, what's next for Mr. Lloyd Kaufman?
I think that hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm might be my last movie. It was a very difficult. If you see the movie, it's a $22 million film made for under $500,000. It's a big deal. And I at the end of it, end of principal photography, I literally did my own fromage to Hitchcock. I actually had vertigo. For 3 days, the room was spinning around, and I hadn't had a drop to drink. So I hope that people might check out The Tempest before they watch hashtag Shakespeare shitstorm. But so far, I've asked audiences when I've introduced the film, anybody here know The Tempest? And maybe out of 600 people, 2 will raise their hands, using, again, the incorrect pronoun, thanks to wokeness. So it's still a lot of fun, no matter how you like it. And the trained whales are really cute.
I will second the do yourself a favor and refresh yourself on The Tempest, because it had been a few years since I had seen it, and I was as I was watching was trying to keep up, but just go read the Wikipedia. Just that, assuming if
there's a wonderful version by Derek Jarman that I think you'd see it for free on YouTube. There's also one that's black and white with Maurice Evans, Richard Burton playing Caliban, Lee Remick playing Miranda, Roddy McDowell playing. I mean, it's unbelievable. All these great casts, and it's just a television film of a play, a stage play, but it's lovely, and it's just all Shakespeare. It's great. And the woman, what's her name? Julie Taymor. There are a lot of movie versions, but I think Jarman's is until #Shakespeare shitstorm. I think Jarman's might have been the best interpretation. I'm not sure. There's Forbidden Planet. There are many iterations of The Tempest, and they're all pretty good. It's just a great play. It's the trippiest, craziest. Got monsters, magic, fairy, romance. All the world loves a lover. So, Brave New World. The book Brave New World is titled from The Tempest, right? Brave New World.
Yeah.
Quote from The Tempest. Anyway, let me play myself off if you don't mind.
Sounds good. Thank you very much.